What's up, everybody? We are live coming at you from Bat City Comic Professionals. I am Shannon, aka Small Press Shan, and I'm here as always with my awesome co-host Phil, aka Wednesday Phil. How's it going, Phil?
I'm doing well. I'm a bit exhausted. I went and saw a death metal concert this week. I went to San Antonio and I saw Cannibal Corpse, which was crazy. I learned that I'm too old for mosh pits. But I've been resting and watching an 80s action comedy show called Hardcastle in McCormick. And it's a retired judge who teams up with an ex-con race car driver to solve unsolved crimes and take down guys who got off. And it's such a stupid show. I can't tell you how much I love this show, and I'm sad there's only 67 episodes. So I'm going to take my sweet time working through all 3 seasons.
My favorite thing on Sundays is asking what you've been up to, because you have the most ridiculous answer almost every time that I ask. I almost feel like you have one of those spinning wheels at home that you write different things on, and you just spin the wheel and you're like, okay, this is what I'm up to. And I would believe that if you didn't also send me pictures from all the things that you're doing. Yeah. So I always know that you legitimately did those things. But it does almost sound like you make them up for entertainment purposes on the show.
Well, I pretty much wake up every Monday morning and think, okay, I have 7 days to find some cool stuff to talk about on Sunday. So I seem like I'm an interesting person.
There you go. He's doing it all for y'all. He's not going, he didn't go to that concert because he wanted to. He went so that he could tell you about it on Sunday.
Actually, I will say I did not go to that concert because I wanted to. I went because J2 wanted to. And I was the only person who knew that was willing to drive to Cannibal Corpse in San Antonio.
Nice. I guess you drove to San Antonio and not to, Cannibal Corpse is in a place, right? That's
yeah, sorry. I drove to see Cannibal Corpse in San Antonio.
Also, I'm really excited to see how that later comes out on YouTube closed captioning, because I've learned that the things that we say come out really, really weird on the YouTube closed captioning. So I'm really excited to see what you going to see Cannibal Corpse comes out as on our YouTube closed captioning later on. That said, if you didn't know, and you're watching this later, or you have friends who you want to share it with, or anybody like that, we do post these up on YouTube. We go live on Sunday nights here on Facebook to hang out with all of y'all, but we do post it on YouTube then usually the next day, within a couple of days after, so it's up there and it lives both on Facebook and on YouTube. So if you didn't know Bat City has a YouTube, we do, and there is a lot more content coming. I actually have to talk to you after the show tonight about that, so don't let me forget. Good luck. Okay. I'm putting you in charge of remembering something.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so we're all not going to remember that. So it was really weird week for comics. When I went to do the comics processing on Tuesday, Matt was like, oh, we got so many comics to process, and our friend was asking him to go see the Batman again, and I was like, he's like, I'm going to buy you a ticket, come see the Batman with me. And Matt was like, I can't, we have so many comics to process. And I'm looking around and I'm like, there's literally only 2 boxes yay big of nice. Marvel, and one of Diamond, and the one Lunar box. So I was like, honestly, if you want to go. Yeah. This is the week to do that. And then I opened it up and I was like, wow, there really isn't, Marvel really only had 2 or 3 titles out this week, which we'll of course talk about later. And then DC had a pretty decent amount, but still very small amount for them. And then of course there was a lot of indie books, but not near as much as we've seen the last couple of weeks. So of course part of that is due to the fact that it was spring break for a lot of places this week and last week. So the last 2 weeks have been a little light on comics for the fact that they know you're probably traveling and not picking up your pulls, or just not able to get to the store. So it's, it's nice that there is this lighter week for everybody to kind of catch up or go out and do the things they want to do.
Yes.
Speaking of things you want to do, I really want to taste this wine. So Phil picked tonight's wine, and it is called Insomnia. And you were telling me that you picked it because the bottle doesn't tell you anything about the flavor, and it really doesn't. It's day and night are 2 halves of a whole. No matter which half, celebrate every moment. embrace the extra time with insomnia wines. I'm really nervous that there's caffeine in this. If there's not, it would have to
it would
legally say
right?
it. Yeah, they have to post that there's caffeine, but I'm like, the fact that it's like, hey, you're gonna stay up all night. I'm like, Phil might kill me. We'll see.
Yeah, it's one of those things because usually when I'm looking at wines, I try and look at the flavors and go based on the ones that I've liked previously.
Yeah.
But I also just kind of like looking at the labels and picking.
Yeah.
Well, I've been trying to find the wine that you sent me a picture of.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get it myself for you.
Is it a Cab Sav?
No, it's a Cab Franc, but they're in the Cab Sav section at HEB,
okay.
but it's like buried usually.
Okay.
But yeah, let's try this.
Smells good.
That's grapey. I'm gonna try it again. I love that I just described it as grapey and it's a wine. It really does taste like just some grapes in a.
It's not bad.
No, not at all. What's up, Ricky? Ricky's saying hi in the thing. Chad says hi. I'm here. Hey everybody. Ricky is from Kirby's Comic Con. The people who
that's
represent
awesome.
Chris Sheehan. So, and shout out to our boy Chris Sheehan, artist on House of Slaughter, and of course the Autumnal, which was one of our favorite books. And House of Slaughter was just in our best of 2021, and I'm not gonna tell you whether or not that made it to the next round yet in the competition, but we'll talk about that later.
Can I complain about
you
this
can, but
bracket?
You can, but you saw it in advance. So if you don't know what we're talking about before we go too far, every year we do a battle of the books, and it's what was the favorite book of 2021 based off of what Bat City subscribers pick up.
Mm-hmm.
And we put it all together in a battle, and then we drop it all on Facebook in March, and we do a March Madness battle to see what was your favorite book, and it's up to you to vote that way. And I try to put the books in order of, like, similar themes, so it doesn't come down to, like, Human Target versus New Bern in the final battle, because that's like, okay, well, we like Prom Noir, maybe it should, maybe it shouldn't, but like we kind of put them together because they have similar audiences. Sometimes it's the same people picking them up, sometimes it's like different ends of the spectrum of the same book, but everybody gets real mad about that every year because they don't want their book to get knocked out, and you know, that's how it goes. That's how they do it in sports ball. They put the people who rank near each other, like...
They don't.
No, they don't. It's like the top and the bottom go next to each other, but I don't want to do that. Because the other reason I try not to do that is because I know, like, then the indie books that nobody's heard of end up all together, and I don't want that to happen either, so I try to give you some options. But, yeah. I know. Which one are you most mad about?
I just feel like all the books that I was rooting for got paired up with books that I know all of the regulars really love.
Well, that's because I probably pushed it just to get our books into the ballot on a lot of those books, Phil.
That's fair.
So we were going to lose. There was one battle that was originally going to be Dead Dogs Bite versus May's book, and I was like, we're just going to be the ones fighting against each other in that. So
I'll tell you this, if I stop voting by the second or third round, there's a reason why. It's because all of my books have already been voted out.
I have a feeling some of your books will make it, don't worry. We'll see, though. You have to control that. You can get in there and start campaigning for your favorite books when that's up on the vote.
You know what? It's hard to campaign with comic book fans because most of them are so set in their way.
Hey, you would be wrong in that mentality because I've had a lot of people this week who have come in and said, I saw people campaigning for their favorite books in the store and I'm here to buy them because now I want to check them out.
Okay.
So don't count your comic book fans out before it's too late. They might not in the moment go with your vote, but they are listening to what you say as a reason to read it. So let's jump in and talk about some new titles that are out this week. These are some of the hot new titles we're loving. I'm going to start out with how you're going to be really, really sad with Rain, issue 3 from Image Comics. This is the story of... it's a Joe Hill story, so Stephen King's son Joe Hill, but it is not written by Joe Hill. This is being adapted to comics by the writer of Canto. And it is ridiculously sad because it is all about a person who lives in this world where suddenly one day, they live in our world, and suddenly one day it starts raining shards of glass and nails and all kinds of other like pieces of sharp things, and most of the people die. And it doesn't get any better, and it's still raining all of this, but the issue 1 starts with this person who is going to be moving in with her partner, and they're very excited to be moving in together, and then this rainstorm hits, and it puts our main character on a journey across the country to try to figure out if there's, anybody left that she cares about. And the people that she has with her along the way keep changing. We keep meeting new characters. We keep we kind of see everything grow a little bit more. And we learn, as usual, and she even says it in this book, usually in these apocalyptic situations, it's not the weather or whatever is causing this apocalypse is usually not the most dangerous thing. It's the other people. And this issue 3 kind of gives us another glimpse of how that works and how terrible that is. And every issue of this book is sad, and yet every issue of this book is beautifully written, and I know there's going to be a great story that comes from the whole thing, so I recommend it for everybody.
This is definitely one of those books that when it first came out, I had no idea what to expect, and yet somehow it's so fantastic. I feel like, there's going to be lots of crying, definitely. And so far, all the characters, including the one they introduced last issue, which I'm now forgetting his name, is awesome. I really think overall this is a solid book. You could potentially see this being an Eisner nomination at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
Just because of how great this book is. And I'm excited to actually read this one because I haven't read it yet. But I'm excited because of how issue 2 ended.
Yes, and I left my description as generic as possible because I know you haven't read this issue, so I didn't want to spoil anything for you, or of course the people watching. But yeah, I'm trying really hard to not go like, oh, and then in this issue, because I know you want to read it.
Right.
But it's really good. If you haven't picked it up yet, you can usually never go wrong with something from Joe Hill's imagination, and it's if you are enjoying any of the like slice of life meets like horror or slice of life meets like apocalyptic like feel kind of stories, this is definitely one of those that you get these people kind of just traveling in this real world situation, but then you get this tragedy that strikes, and it's really cool to see how they deal with it. So that's Rain. We're on issue 3. We have issue 1 and 2, so you can come in and catch up if you want to.
Yeah, also talk about a book that beat out the 3-issue rule by issue 1.
Oh yeah, you just knew in issue 1 that you needed to keep going.
It was like, okay, this is going to be amazing.
Yeah. Land of the Living Gods issue 2 from Aftershock Comics. This is a really, really good story, honestly. This is about a young girl in Africa who is albino, and it's futuristic and we've past post-apocalyptic, really. We've got, everything's kind of gone wrong. There's not a lot of food, there's not a lot of water, and when her mother is passing away, she tells her that she needs to return to the land of the living gods, and she needs to take back the plant that lives in their house that always seemed a little sentient to this place of the land of the living gods. So for the first time, our main character has started out on a journey on her own through all of the world, and it's not safe for anybody in this new world, and she's never really been on her own, and she doesn't do a very good job in the first issue. She's already captured and is made a new friend indirectly through it. This book is going to very much, like Land of the Living Gods is very much going to be your classic like hero's journey kind of story, but it's so beautifully done. And one of the things I love about this book is every character that speaks in a different dialect, they actually translate they tell you on the bottom like what language it is, and then what those words mean in that language. Like they don't translate in the page, they don't do translated from this. They actually write it in that language, and then on the bottom they give you a little asterisk that's like, this is Swahili and it means this. And so you're actually learning those words as you go along, which I think is a beautiful way to use different languages in your story.
Yeah, I remember really loving issue 1 And I started scrolling or skimming through this one a bit, and I kind of, like I talked about last week, where you kind of just start to notice that there's maybe some books that are better to read in trades, and not necessarily better for everyone, but maybe better for me in particular. And this is one of those books where I'm like, this is going to be a lot of world building. It's going to be intense. There's going to be a lot of information throughout this book. And if I don't read it all in one fell swoop, I'm not going to remember everything issue to issue. And I feel I'm going to lose the overall enjoyment of the story.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have high hopes for this book. I really do.
Absolutely. And one of the things that is good about that, if you are like on the fence and you're not sure if you are more of a trade weight person or a pick it up person, one of the things that Aftershock does really well is they spend a lot of time in issue 1 building out the world and the plot of the story, and then they let the characters drive it for issues like 2 through 5. And I feel like after this issue we're definitely seeing that a lot already, of the characters kind of driving that story and them still kind of building along the way, but the characters pushing the story further along. And so if you haven't picked up issue 1 of Land of the Living Gods, we do have it in stock. I believe we also have our Aftershock Ambassador exclusive cover as well, still in stock if you're a collector. And Land of the Living Gods issue 1 was one that had a huge speculation on it, a lot of people picking it up immediately. We still have first prints of issue 1. I believe we actually just got in second prints of issue 1, and then we do have that Aftershock Ambassador exclusive. So now's your chance to snag some of those if you're looking for it.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up becoming a TV show. Absolutely. Like, I could see this being an HBO Max series, without a doubt.
Absolutely. That is definitely one I could see getting optioned. I could also see this book from AWA getting optioned, which is The Crimson Cage. This is issue 4 of 5. It could, in theory, be volume 1. Could be the whole story. This is Macbeth if it was told through 1980s amateur / pro wrestling. It's like amateur, but not really, because they are professionals. I don't know. But anyway, this is like that mid-range wrestling in the 1980s, telling a Macbeth story. It's fantastic. I know when I say that plot, every time I say that plot to somebody, I'm like, I know that sounds ridiculous, but I promise you this is one of the best like written books right now. It is so well done. And it's a great adaptation. I really want to hand this to like high school students who are reading Macbeth and be like, do a paper on how these two intersect so perfectly.
Right. Or if Macbeth is somewhat tough for you to sit down and read, take a break and read The Crimson Cage, because it's much more fun. Like, I think about the time, I don't think I actually read Macbeth until college. I think it was freshman year of college that I had to read Macbeth. And I thought, okay, I get why this is popular, but this is kind of boring. And now that you've put it, along with amateur wrestling, it's like, now I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I was talking about this with somebody the other day, and I said it's funny because I remember thinking and talking about this with people throughout life, that wrestling is almost like the modern day theater equivalent. Because it is that, in the way that Shakespeare's was, in the way that it was that, like, quickly, like, adapt a thing, and then now we're going to take it around everywhere, and everybody goes to it to see it, and you get, like, these fan bases, and it becomes this big thing. And, like, yes, we still have the theater in that, but, like, this has that, like, over-the-top, overzealous, like, performance, and it's like, oh, they walk off the stage, and they're not anything, but it's, like, serialized theater, which we saw a lot back in Shakespeare's time. And so I think that somebody else was sitting there and was like, you know what? Like, what is the closest to serialized theater? Is it just regular television, or is there something specific on television that kind of has that feel? And this is it, because it is something that everybody travels to and they go to. And you have these characters, and it's like, the trading card aspect of it, but it is still just theater at the end. And so it's super cool to see how they kind of merge these two worlds into one story. And I can't wait to see how it wraps up, if it does wrap up in issue 5, because the story could take more than 5 issues to tell, or it could end in the next one, AWA Upshot's good at giving us a volume 1 that's only 5 issues and then telling us, just by the way, you're getting a second volume. And I love the way they do that because they do get those trades out really quick for people who are waiting. But let's see where that goes.
Yeah, and Alex McCormick's art on this book it's so good.
Fantastic. Speaking of people who we all love as artists, Marco Cicchetto, who does the Daredevil book, is actually working on Life Zero. This is an Ablaze title, and this is issue 2. This is honestly your classic video game or zombie movie kind of situation. We've got a guy who was in prison, and he used to be in the military, or he is in the military, ends up in prison, and all of his unit comes in to help break him out of the prison as the zombie apocalypse breaks out. So the first issue is that prison scene that you see in a lot of like the Resident Evil games and things like that, where you got to break out of the scene and you got to go in and save your one person, and everybody's turning into zombies around them and they have to fight their way out. And this issue 2 sees them trying to get out of the prison and then get into the city and find a safe place. I really, really do feel like I'm watching a video game play out when I read this series, and it's a lot of zombie fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed that first issue a ton. This is one that didn't make the cut this week, but I'm sure at some point when I'm in the shop this next week, it'll find its way into my hands. Because, I do enjoy a good zombie book. It's kind of tough because I feel like, there's a good amount of zombie.
Inundated with, yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be a lot, but I do enjoy the kind of fun, action-packed ones where it's like, I don't really need to know most of these characters' names because there's a good chance by the end of it, only like 1 or 2 of them will still be alive in the end. I also love that all the Ablaze titles now say where these artists come from. Like that way, it draws you to the book more. Like if you're sitting there and you're like, oh, I love Devil's Reign and all the Daredevil stuff. Oh, it's the same artist. I should read this. I think that's a really good marketing tool for Ablaze. And I'm also quite impressed with the artist that Ablaze has been getting lately.
Yeah, absolutely. And Life Zero has been, like, if it is a video game, please let me know, because, like, it's just been a lot of fun. And this is the issue where you kind of get a little bit more of the actual story that goes to it. And it is 100% the kind of story you expect it to go to, but it's still, like, I'm like, ooh, I can't wait to see how this works out. And like, some of the dialogue is perfect, like, action movie dialogue as it goes along.
Yeah, I think this is a fun one to pick up. Mm-hmm. Pick this one up if you have some of those more serious books and you just kind of need a little bit of a break. Maybe you cried during Rain and now, you just kind of want something fun to lift your spirits. But yeah, and it's Ablaze.
Yeah, so everything they've been putting out has been great. Next up from Stonebot, speaking of publishers we are loving, that is an imprint of Red 5, we've got issue 2 of the Fictionauts.
Yes, some pulp goodness here. So this is essentially your Challengers of the Unknown, very pulp style, but all of what they do is they go in and make sure that fictional stories stay correct. And I think even in here they make a comment where it's like, we're there to make sure Tarzan doesn't grab the wrong vine when he's swinging. And I have to be entirely honest with you, I'm not fully sure what is going on in this story, because there's a lot of different universes, and there's robots and villains and multiple realities, and it is a mess of a story.
So, long, confusing story short, they are, like you said, they go to the different worlds and they fix things, especially like fictional worlds, and they fix things. They make sure everything stays correct. They are supposed to go through a book. Like, they have a book that's like, hey, this is where the next problem's going to come from, and this and that. And the book has gone blank, and that happened in issue 1. And they are trying to figure out what happened to the book and what's going on with that. But at the same time, there is a villain who's mad that he's never been considered one of their great villains, and he's teaming up with other villains And they end up, in this particular issue, they end up in a parallel world that's supposed to be, like, similar to theirs, but they're not the heroes in that world. Like, everything's gone wrong for them. And so it says it has all of that, like, weird out there, like, pulpy stuff where you're like, okay, I think I got what's going on. And then they're like, and then comes this thing. And you're like, whoa, what is this? Wait, I just got where we were. It's honestly, like, we've got this big bad guy. He is working with the lesser bad guy. And they are determined to bring down the Fictionauts. And they're going to but they are sending them different problems, like minor problems, to keep them distracted in other universes. So the whole other universes come from them trying to keep them distracted while they work on their master plan, which we don't know what that is yet, but I'm assuming it has something to do with this disappearing book.
Right. In this issue, it feels like there's a few villains in this book. Like, you have the Man from Beyond, you have the Omni Knot, I believe, and then there's one more. And then they mention a character named the Nexus as well. So this is honestly a book that I feel like you kind of have to take notes and remember names, because there are a lot of characters thrown at you. But it's so good. I think the art in this book is fantastic. It fits very well with the pulp aspect of it. And even though I'm slightly confused on what's going on, I'm still really enjoying the book.
Yeah, and if you have a transatlantic radio accent, you should read the book in that.
Yes.
Like, it would just make it even better in your head.
Yeah, I love this book. I mean, I'm a big fan of pulp stuff, but this kind of hits all that. Yeah, here's the Omni Knot. And this is also, like, the character designs in this book are so cool. It's very, like, old school science fiction. Like, so many wonderful things. In this issue, you find out that everything's not as it seems to be. You know, maybe there's some stuff going on that we're going to find out. But honestly, I hope this is a book that goes on forever. Yeah, absolutely. And they just keep building this world. And maybe at some point, once they kind of figure out what's going on, maybe they can circle back to doing more, like, fictional, like, diving into fictional worlds. That's kind of what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and I think that we'll see that some in the next issue, because they did mention that, like, Alice is going to be there, and they're going to, and, like, the preview for next issue was like, ooh, we'll be helping Alice. What imaginary characters are going to come into play? So,
yeah,
we'll see.
Fictionauts, it's great. It's Stonebot, so, I mean, I've kind of hopped fully on board the Stonebot bus. They haven't let me down yet. So.
Yeah, 3 books in, and they're still going strong.
Oof.
Yeah. What's the furthest place from here? Issue 6? 5. Look, I finally got ahead of the numbering. I've been, like, behind the numbering every... This is from Image Comics. This is Matthew Rosenberg and Tyler Boss. And really, I could stop right there, and that would be the selling point of this book. But it is a warrior-style experience where we're living in a post-apocalyptic world. We've got different gangs of children. If you get to adulthood, you have to kind of be put out to pasture because something goes wrong. They don't live through it. And we've got all of these different kid groups. We are following specifically one group that has lived in a record store. And one of their own has gone missing. And so now we're kind of going to each of the other gangs locations, and we have spent the last issue and this issue in a carnival.
Which, how could you not want to spend time in a carnival?
Well, you don't in this one. It's not going well. It's not going well for them. But if you have not checked this book out, this is one of the most, like, interesting and fun books, honestly, like, on the shelves right now. They're absolutely killing it, which is not surprising for Tyler Boss and Matthew Rosenberg. They are both powerhouses on their own, and then when they come together, they continuously make good stuff. So, so great. I just want you to keep showing art. I'm, like, trying to make stuff up that you need to know just so you'll keep showing art, because I absolutely love looking at it.
I mean, Tyler Boss is probably up there now in terms of my favorite artists that are like currently working on books. But I feel like it's the entire creative team on this book, not even just Tyler Boss.
Right, the colors are phenomenal.
Yeah, it's a really, really fun book. And if you haven't gotten into it now, you need to. I gotta be honest, I'm still waiting for those vinyl records to come. Or at least a playlist of all of the music.
They have only released through issue 2 on vinyl records.
Oh, the second one did come out?
The second one did come out. It came out this week. But it's extremely allocated. So we got our one. It went to our first subscriber for them. And we're, hoping eventually the second prints will get to make it out, because I would love to see the second prints get out of the vinyls, because I just want to get one. Yeah.
I also I want to hear it, because they're getting really awesome bands.
Yeah. For
these records.
And I think on the next one they've got somebody covering Smashing Pumpkins and stuff, so it's gonna be cool.
Yeah, I haven't seen the artist for issue 3 yet.
Yeah. I can't wait. Up next is Wonder Woman 785. This is part 3. Where are we at? Yeah, part 3 of the Trial of the Amazons. Part beginning of the Trial of the Amazons. I should have grabbed to cover A, because I feel because Nubia was last week, and that was the beginning of it. Trial of the Amazons 1. So yeah, this is okay. So this is part 3. Woo! I am right. There's a checklist at the back of the book. We are at part 3 of Trial of the Amazons, and this is honestly and truthfully one of the coolest things that we've got from the big 2, because we never get just Amazonian events coming at us. And I'm absolutely loving the fact that we are getting a huge event with them. This has been super cool. All 3 tribes of the Amazons have come together in Themyscira to figure out who is going to be the new person watching Doomstor. It's always just been one of the Themyscirian Amazons, but now the other tribes have thought, if you're going to be treating us as equals, you're going to be accepting of us, then you need to give us a chance to be the champion of the Amazons. And so they are now having the usual trial that they do of the Amazons to pick their champion, much like you may have seen with how Diana was chosen to go to Man's World. But they are choosing who is going to be the champion to guard Doom's Doorway. But there was a throwdown in the first issue of Trial of the Amazons that we also always have relied on the Themyscirans to be the ones who determine everything for the Amazons. And why should why should their queen be the ultimate queen? And so now there is also the idea of maybe we need to have a conversation about who's going to be the queen of the ultimate ruler of all the Amazons. And so that has been something that's in contention, and there's already been a murder that has happened. In issue 1 of Trial of the Amazons. We saw somebody murdered, and we are starting to see a lot of repercussions for that already, and we're starting to see a lot of people fall apart within the Amazon culture based off of who was murdered and the fact that we don't have any clue who it was. We should see coming up next week, I believe, is Trial of the Amazons Yada Floor. Yada Floor and Nubia will still continue to have their solo titles through Trial of the Amazons, but they will be called Trial of the Amazons Yada Floor, or Wonder Girl, and Trial of the Amazons Nubia. So they'll still have titles, but their titles have that Trial of the Amazons header in front of them. So they're kind of starting over at number 1 from this point on, but it is definitely, they're still there. Don't freak out. They're still going, and we are going to see the battles from Yada Floor's side and from Nubia's side, as well as from Diana's side, and then as a whole in the Trial of the Amazons book. It's fantastic, and all of the writers who have been on the individual books are still a part of it. So we're still getting to see each of them kind of be a part of telling the story.
Oh, I thought this was Diana for a second.
No, and I'm glad you didn't say who it was, because that's kind of a spoiler. So
yeah. Cool costume.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. I'll tell you all about it off camera.
Well, I just started volume 1 of the Becky Cloonan Wonder Woman, because I checked it out from the library, and it's good.
Right? See, I told you.
I'm sitting here because I've tried with Wonder Woman. Greg Rucka did a run. Yeah. And there was one more, I think, at maybe the beginning of Rebirth is what I read as well.
That was Greg Rucka.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Then maybe the writer before that? Who was the other big writer on Wonder Woman more recently? It was Tamaki, Rucka, and there's one
There's
other
G.
one.
Willow Wilson's that happened. Oh my gosh.
Because G. Willow Wilson was more
Steve
recent.
Orlando did one.
I think it was the Steve Orlando one. And I thought, I was like, okay, these are pretty good, but this isn't like something that's going to make me want to be a Wonder Woman fan. This one, however, Becky Cloonan.
I knew, that's why when you asked me, which one should I read? I was like, it's Becky Cloonan. You are a Becky Cloonan fan.
Yeah, I know.
And she knows how to get you every time. And her and Michael Conrad are just a great team for their writing.
She got me.
I knew it. I knew it would work. Red 5 Comics has issue 3 of Carriers out. This is all about militant carrier pigeons in New York who run the city and keep it safe. And in this particular issue, there is a hurricane coming to New York City, and a lot of the animals are not being safely attended to. And we don't think about that a lot, of like, what do birds do during storms, and what do the rats do, and things like that. And so the carrier pigeons have to kind of have a conversation. Their job is, like, they have this conversation about, okay, you're taking this area, you're taking this area. And they go through and they help birds get out of trees and, like, get their eggs to safer places. And they're helping, you know, the rats find dry land, and making truces with the different animals so that the animals can all stay in one safe shelter. It's super cool to see these pigeons work together, but at the same time, we do still have the overall story, which has been that the crocodiles that live in the sewers of New York are running some, like, shady businesses, and it continues to get worse as even during the storm, we see how some of the stuff that they've set up is pretty bad. I love this book. It sounds ridiculous when you're like, so there's these militant carrier pigeons that run New York City. It sounds ridiculous, but it's so good. And I love it.
I mean, that should be the selling point, though.
It should be.
And then, of course, the fact that you assume that it's going to be the silliest book on the shelf.
And then it's super serious.
And it's really serious kind of makes it even better.
It's so good.
I appreciate Red 5 for letting a creative team take this task on.
Right. I want to know who pitched it. Like, who came into Red 5 and was like, so I have this book, and it's about these pigeons and how they help out New York City and they stop fighting crime against crocodiles and rats. Like, who thought that? And yet, who has been to New York and not wondered if the pigeons are up to something against the rats? And, you know.
I hope this was somebody who did drugs in Central Park one time and was just watching pigeons for like a few hours and came up with this story, because it's genius.
It's a great idea.
It's such a genius concept.
You can just say this really fast. There's some pages you might be able to show this week, but book you'll ever read. You gotta hold it up.
I'm just kidding.
The last book you'll ever read. It's a vault title. I know you still want to show it off.
Yes, I do.
This is about a woman who writes a book. This is issue 6, I believe.
I thought it was over at 5.
No, that's what I said last time.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. It's this one.
It's not this one. This is still not the end. This is not the end of the story.
Wait, really?
Yeah, really. So this is a woman who wrote a book, and everywhere that people read the book, like, they start just, like, taking in all of their, and there are a lot of pages you could probably show, they start kind of going into their, like, deepest desires, and, it gets violent, they get sexual, they get all these things, and she has found out that there is essentially this cult that follows her book. At least that's what she thought. Now we're learning that there is actually more to it, and that she might actually just be a pawn in the story of her story. And things get really, really crazy in this issue. And I feel like I say that every time we talk about this book. And yet every time I'm like, oh, this is getting even weirder. And things are getting even more outlandish. And where is this going? And what is this book doing? Well, I still don't know. But I'm waiting for, we keep talking about, like, waiting for the payoff. Like, everybody reading this book, we're always like, what's going to be, like, what's the payoff? Like, is she going to get attacked by some kind of demon? Is there a demon inside of her? Like, is this cult going to kill her? Like, who knows? I have no idea where it's going still. And I kind of enjoy that about it, because you really just have no clue where it's getting to and what it's doing. You just know that this book's caused some damage, and it might actually not be her fault in the end.
Do you feel like this is ramping up to an ending.
It does feel like it's ramping up towards an ending. I'm a little confused in some parts because I thought that in the beginning of issue 1, like, it seemed like she was in on, like, I thought, like, she had, like, a demon in her and she was in on this whole book thing. And as we've come to the later parts of the story, she seems to be really confused and not sure that, like, she had no idea, like, any of this was happening, is what we learn in this issue. So I'm a little... I want to go back to issue 1 and double check it, but it does feel like something is about to happen, and like issue 7 could be the end, but I think that after every issue, so I'm not really sure.
I hope Cullen Bunn sets it up to where it seems like the next issue is the end,
and then doesn't,
and then it just keeps going.
Yeah, and that so far has been the thing. It seems like every issue, like that's the end, and then it's like it keeps going. Impossible Jones issue 4 from Scout Comics. This is all about a thief who, when she's trying to rob a facility, ends up getting in one of those like chambers that ends up causing her to get superpowers and a suit that is basically able to change to whatever she wants it to be. And she recently realized that if she just pretended that she was a superhero, she could get away with whatever she wanted. And so I like this because she's not really a superhero, and she's not really a supervillain. She's just kind of like, what if a normal person who was kind of shady got stuck with superpowers, and like, how would they use it? But it's done in that very like Freakazoid style cartoon, both the art and the storytelling.
Yeah, the art is very similar to Fictionauts.
And the storytelling is too. Like, it's kind of those like, ooh, and like, let's insert punny joke right here. And like, oh, and here's another joke. And so it's really funny, but it's still got a good story, which, I mean, that's Freakazoid. And I feel like this is definitely one that if you're not reading it, you should just come grab issue 1 and check it out. Because it does have some good relationships. It's got some really weird, like, villains and heroes that just make for a really entertaining thing. This is your Cartoon Network kind of show put into a comic book, honestly.
I like that it says guest starring the enigmatic Even Steven, and she also battles a character named Homewrecker.
Yes. Dude, the characters in this are great. Like, Even Steven, he shows up when, like, he's like, and this is not a fair fight. So I had to come and help out with this battle because it's not a fair fight. And then his whole thing is, like, you have everything, the odds need to be even, but nobody knows what his powers are because he somehow seems to have whatever power it needs to, like, balance the situation out. And nobody knows if he's a good guy or a bad guy because he kind of just helps whoever, like, is suffering, like, the fate of, like, an unfair advantage. So he's a super interesting character, and I want to see more Even Steven. Like, if we got an Even Steven spinoff, I'd totally be cool with that.
I mean, this is you could definitely build this world out.
Absolutely. I hope they do.
It's Scout Comics issue 4. You said you have
issues? We have issues 1 through 3, yeah. Or 1 through 4, I guess now. So, next up we've got a couple number 1s that I want to run through. We got some some beginnings and then some endings this week.
Okay.
So, I'm going to consider this a number 1. It's kind of a number 1 shot. We've got Quad. And this is, who's our character this time? Walls.
The story's called Walls.
Yeah.
And this is one that, so it's an anthology, kind of centered around a futuristic city and kind of its outlands. And the last issue, which now I'm forgetting the name of the robot, Trent, we said was like the best possible story ever. How can you live up to Trent? And this is about these characters that are referred to as trashmen, and they live outside the city. And they go around and collect trash and trade it for fuel and other things that the robots in the city have that they need. And this is the story of a character that doesn't have a name. He has a designation. They eventually just call him Echo. And it's kind of his story about how every day he wakes up in the city, he does the same thing, and then he goes to sleep, and he does it over and over again, and there's no change to that. And so he decides to break out of his living quarters to go see these trashmen. I loved this story.
Yeah, it was great.
It's not Trent. It's not as exciting as Trent was, but in terms of kind of building this world, this quad world that we're getting, it was really great. I mean, it sets up kind of an idea for, what goes on within the walls of this city.
It's also a great social commentary on the idea that you get up, you go to work every day, you do exactly what they tell you, and it's like even the people who are like, oh, well, we're rebelling against that, and we're doing things differently, and like we're not a part of the system, are still a part of the system. There's still a process that they're a part of, and the way that they're a part of it, and so it's interesting to see like the way they tell that story of like, oh, well, yeah, we're completely, we're not a part of their thing, but then their thing kind of is still something else that they're all trapped in. Mm-hmm. And so it's a really interesting story, and I love the way they tell it, and it's shorter than the other quad stories. I feel like it was a very quick story, but like you said, it built a lot out to the quad world, and I just had a really like powerful story within those few pages. So they definitely did a really great job. The quad series, like you said, anthology, just full of one shots, but they've all continued to just kind of escalate and build onto the world. Yeah,
and so now I'm kind of curious though, because they do, and I can't show anymore because I don't want to give away the ending of this story because I think it's really good. Now that because it's like the way it's being done is it's giving you like a puzzle piece at a time, but when you look back at the pieces you have, you still don't really know the story, the overall story. And so I'm kind of curious when we're going to start getting that story.
Yeah.
Because even with the next issue, it seems like it's another one shot with another character that exists in this universe, but I still don't know when or what's coming down the line. I do think there's a bit of a teaser in this issue as to what is coming. Mm-hmm. And I like the way that they did it with this story, story in particular. And I'm hoping that's the case, because I think this is going to turn into a really, really awesome book.
Agree.
Pick this up. If you didn't pick up Trent, the last issue, pick that one up because that was awesome.
Right. And the first issue had a cat. So, they're all good.
Yes.
Before I grab the next book, can we have some more wine, sir? Yes, and then I will continue to talk about the next book. The next book comes from Image Comics. It is Slumber #1, which I know a lot of people have been asking me, like, when does Slumber come out? They were very excited about it. It's here, which is funny because you got Insomnia Wine, and we're going to read about Slumber, and the art in Insomnia Wine matches the art in Slumber so perfectly. So this art here...
I don't want to say that I plan these things ahead, but...
He definitely doesn't.
Let's not forget that I also go out of my way to do something interesting every week for you.
It also matches your shirt.
It does match your shirt.
Mine?
Yeah, the bottle is like blue and orange.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to put this right
I planned that too.
Yeah. Slumber #1 is all about a serial killer who catches people when they are asleep and makes them sleepwalk to go kill people. And at the same time, it is the story of a person who is a dream detective, a dream solver. Basically, you go to this company and you say, I'm having these terrible nightmares. I want to get rid of them. And we've got a girl who goes into your brain a la Inception. Like, they even have a lot of the same rules as Inception when they're in there. And is like, okay, well, I'm going to just take out the thing that is haunting your dreams. And we see the first dream that she battles is a guy who, you got to show the dream.
I'm going to show that because I want to show the door first. It's very Monsters Inc.
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that they have a door that you have to walk through. And I was already sold on this book. When I saw the previews for it, I was like, this is amazing. And then you get this kind of art, which is so fantastic.
It's so great. And then the fact that she goes in there and she's supposed to just be containing the bad dream, but her thing is to just, like, slaughter the bad dreams. And she kind of loses it every time she's in the dream, and she just gets further and further, like, into it. The first dream that she's battling is a guy who... is haunted by somebody wanting to tickle him.
Yeah.
And it's like this little Mr. Tickles or whatever, and he's chasing after them, and she has to deal with it, and it's funny, but it's also, like, it's not about the humor. Like, the book's not a humor story, but it has some good humor in it.
Yeah, because it's definitely very dark, but then there's this, like, little conversation where they're trying to explain to the person in the dream what they're doing, and she makes the whole when life gives you lemons, and then it spirals into this weird conversation where it's like
totally
they
does.
don't know what they're saying, and they're like, well, wait, why are you stealing our lemons? I want lemonade now.
I
And it's
really
just
like
oh my
lemons.
God.
And she's like, well, nobody likes lemons. And they're like, I like lemons. And they're like, can you replace it with something else?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, what do you want me to do? And they're like, I don't know. Now I just want lemonade. I can't focus on what you should be doing. And then, of course, like, even the person dreaming is like, ooh, lemonade.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I love that, because you are planting these thoughts in people's heads while you're in there. And then they kind of do, like I said, they touch on those inception rules, like, hey, if you don't get out of the dream, like, they're starting to turn on you, they're recognizing you, you get those moments. And I almost feel like the writer assumed everybody saw that movie, because they haven't laid out the rules for us of this, but they just kind of hint, like, say those things, like, well, you all saw Inception, so you know the rules of dream walking. And it's like, well, what if you didn't? Like, are you gonna figure it out? You probably will, but it's a lot of fun, and there is that darker, like, undertone, and there's some really great, like, she's got a past that's led her to this job, and we also have the person behind the sleepwalker murders that we need to figure out who that is and what they're connected to, and I'm super sold on wherever this book goes.
100%. There's also a really great movie reference in here that brought me so much joy, just because of how it plays out. And I'm not going to tell you what it is, so you have to read this issue. But you're not going to be disappointed. I mean, the art in this book, the colors, and yeah, I think it's going to get really crazy and really wild and out there. But I also think it's going to have a really solid story all the way through.
Yeah, and this is one of those books where we always get to this point in the hot new titles where, like, this could have been a pick of the week. This could have been a pick of the week. Absolutely. Yeah. We try to not pick everything. It's really hard, but this one definitely could have been up there, because I feel like it's gonna have that darker, a little bit like something is killing the children. You're gonna get some of those tones of the monster fighting, but almost in an I Hate Fairyland kind of way. Yeah,
and I actually was gonna mention that the art style in the dream world is very reminiscent of I Hate Fairyland. Yeah, so you're getting a little bit of everything you could want when you pick up this book, and I recommend that you do. And I'll say this book barely missed my pick of the week. But when I show you my pick of the week, and I show you the art in my pick of the week, you're going to know why. You'll understand why that was my pick of the week. They're all the same color. If you the colorist of all. The one that my pick of the week. That's a whole different color. That's going last. That's Playthings, number 1 from Black Caravan, which is, of course, the, like, mature imprint of Scouts. I read this book right before I went to sleep, and I started it, and I was like, is this going to be a bad idea? Should I not read this book before I go to sleep? Am I going to need to call the Slumber detective, like, after I read this book? And maybe. I love this book because it opens with very Martin Simmons Department of Truth art. And it's another one of those, like, we're in a weird world, I don't know what it is. And then it backs out. To where we were there, and it's that darker, it's still very Martin Simmons Department of Truth kind of art, where we still have those, like, muted, like, weird obscured things you can't really tell, but this is your classic horror movie, and this is your warning before Phil continues to turn the page that this is about clowns. So when I was a kid, the first movie that terrified me was called Demonic Toys. If you've never seen it, it's a B-level horror movie about a bunch of toys that come to life. Awesome B-level horror movie. That was my Joey from Friends, like, I need to put it in the freezer moment as a kid. Like, I, like, hid it under the chair and wouldn't look at it. Yeah. This book is that movie as a comic. A little girl whose parents are divorced and are fighting all the time, receives a box of a toy for her birthday, and she opens it up, and it's a clown. And the clown, she keeps telling everybody, is alive. And nobody believes her. And they will
They very much
Typical
will.
parents in a horror story.
Yep. And typical toys in a horror story.
Yeah.
You turn your back on them and suddenly you don't got a back anymore.
So I like the concept of this book, but I think the art made it tough for me.
It's a little muted at times where you can't see what's going on.
Also, they keep mentioning that there's something wrong with the little girl, and because of the art, I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah.
Like, maybe they keep saying that maybe she's too small, or they refer to her as tiny, but you don't get that vibe with the art style. But I do think it fits with the story.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really think you could tell this story with much of a different art style.
No, because they do a good job of you not being able to necessarily see, like, where the clown is at all times.
Yes.
And so you're like, wait, where is he? And you're hunting the page trying to find him.
Yes.
But that does kind of obscure at times, like you said, like some of the other characters in the scene, and you're, like, not really sure. But this clown is creepy, and it's gonna, I have a feeling that as this book goes on, it's gonna get darker and darker, and we're gonna work our way back to those first couple of pages, and things are not going well for the mom in the first couple of pages.
Which, rightfully so, because I would have called
terrible.
CPS
Yeah,
on her,
this
like,
mom's
if she,
terrible.
like, it's page 2.
Yeah.
I would have been like, you suck. Like, your daughter's really excited that she's about to have her birthday, and you're just like, I hate your dad. I'm going to go eat ice cream. Leave me go play.
Go away.
Yeah, go
Like,
take a bath.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like, oh
to
my
your
God.
your child, you keep saying is too small
Yeah.
to do anything, and then you're like, go take a bath, and it's like, well, is she gonna drown? She, like, is a tiny child. She looks like she's like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And that was for me. I was like, maybe they just keep referencing her as small or tiny because it's like, oh, she's like this, like young, like they're trying to say she's really young.
They
but...
mentioned something in the beginning about, like, these drugs.
Yeah.
Because they say give her the drugs and make her taller, she'll grow. And there's something about doctors in here and side effects. So, look, all I'm saying is I'm rooting for the mom to die.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that because she's a terrible character.
Yes.
And it's one of those situations where you're like, oh, just let the girl go live with the other family members. Like, they seem to be a good head on their shoulders. And so, I mean, and that's classic horror movie, right? You got, like, the one, they stay with the parent that's, like, not necessarily good at taking care of them. And then they have to go through this challenge of this evil being that tries to teach them a lesson, and I hope she learns her lesson because this book's gonna get dark and she's gonna go through some stuff.
Yeah.
Up next was the Clay People Colossus, and this is a one-shot comic from Image, specifically Top Cow line, and this is the story of a young boy who is half Asian, half Jewish, and his mother is in the military, so he's constantly being moved around. And he moves to a very small town where all of the people are, all of the kids are completely racist towards him. And he is dealing with the racism and the bullying that comes from it. And the first part's just kind of showing, like, the Nazis and how they treated the Jews and Jewish people, and then it goes to the modern time and shows his situation. And
so this is a golem story?
It is a golem story. This is about a kid who does build a golem. It's a one shot, so it's the whole story, and it's just him building his golem and dealing with his bullies in that way, but also, like, learning his lesson. And he is singing, like, he sings a song throughout the whole thing as he's, like, building it up. So it's kind of like the, like, legend being told through the song as he sings the song, and you see it. This is a very intense book, with the bullying and the way that the racism, like, affects him and the way it's done, to the point where the creator himself said, I censored out the words that they called him in the story. Like, I wrote the story. Top Cow didn't censor me. I wrote censored over the words because I want you to understand, like, the words that they're, like, I want you to know that they're calling something bad, but I don't feel it necessary to put that word in there. And so he's like, so I censored myself and I wrote the censor bars over it when I turned it in because I don't think that those words need to be used, but I want you to understand that people are using those words.
Right. Which I appreciate. It's kind of like when you see a Quentin Tarantino movie, You know, like Django Unchained, where you're like, you don't really need to say that word so many times. I mean, we know it exists, but it's not necessary. You know, you can still get your point across without having to use that word.
And that was, he kind of said that he wrote, the writer wrote a very long letter at the back of the book that was like, it's actually based on him and his children and situations that they've lived through themselves and how it affected them throughout time, because he was in a military brat as a kid, and he is, you know, half Jewish and half Asian, and he said that he felt it, he felt that a lot, and then now his kids have also had these bullies that have treated them in the same way, and so he was approached and asked if he had a story to tell, and this was kind of the story that he wanted to tell, because we're at a time where it's still happening. You know, he's like, my kids are experiencing the same things that I did, which everybody in my family has mentioned experiencing throughout time, and so it hasn't actually changed, and he kind of wanted to give that story a chance to be told once more, and kind of get it out there so people could see that. So, and he lists a lot of resources at the back, so it's like, here's historical references, like if you didn't know, and it is based on a band. Yeah, the Clay People is a band
called the Clay People.
And so it does, and I guess that's the song he's singing, but that gives it that like folklore feel of like a song going through the story. But he did have resources of like, hey, these are the historical moments where like the things that he referenced happen, and these are like, you know, places that you can go to if you are looking for information on any of those things, which I always appreciate when somebody does write a book that has that historical context, that they actually include ways that you can find it yourself. So
I'm gonna have to listen to this band. They've shared the stage with bands such as Disturbed, Stained, Clutch, Static X. Oh my gosh. Oh, so many bands that I enjoyed at one point.
Is Cyberforce coming back?
Yes. No, they are collecting it in a softcover and a hardcover this June. So if you are one of the 5 people who really want to get your copy of Volume 1 of Cyberforce, then better get on that. Or if you want,
I have a lot of questions about it.
Send me a message and I'll send you all 50 issues that I have. I have like multiple copies of issues 1 through 5. So I'll even glue them together. And
you can bind them at the library. They should have binding services. A lot of libraries, so you can check it out or take them to Kinko's. So, Beyond the Beyond from Scout Comics. This is our last number 1 for the week. This is your sci-fi story of the week. I feel like we haven't had like the big sci-fi moment. This is all about a futuristic society where they all live in a space planet of some sort, and
it's in space.
It's in space, and it's the story of these 2 kids whose parents were some of the earliest explorers for this, and they have either gone missing or have been killed, and now they are in the academy, and of course the older brother falls into line, does everything he wants, and the young teenage girl just wants to kind of be like her parents were and wants to be an explorer, and she hates that her brother doesn't understand her, and she hates that society is controlled by these like mindless robots, literally. So she wants to set out on an adventure and become an explorer, and she's going to do that at whatever cost there are to herself and her brother, which is just the 2 of them. She doesn't care. It's time for adventure.
I like these colors.
Yeah.
And the art in this book.
The art's really cool. I like that. I love this girl because she falls asleep in class and everybody else has got their little mind control headset on, and the robots come up and they're like, we have found that you have been doing something called daydreaming in this class, and that is not tolerated. And she's like, I'm sorry, did you want me to continue to listen to the mindless drones that you have like controlling our brains to make us hear fake history facts until we believe them? So like she's completely like the anti, like, you can't tell me what, you know, the anti rules, and like you're not going to force me to fall in line. And her brother is the I'm going to fall in line at all costs, because what else are we supposed to do kind of person. Yeah. So you get that dichotomy of these 2 characters immediately. And I love where the story goes at the end of issue 1, and I can't wait to read issue 2.
What's beyond the beyond?
We'll find out. very soon.
Mm.
Then we had 2 books in this week, so I'm just going to go this really quickly because I don't want to show too much of endings. But regarding the matter of Oswald's body by Christopher Cantwell at Boom Studios, this is the story of the conspiracy, behind the conspiracy of whether or not it's Lee Harvey Oswald who is buried in his grave. This is the group of people who Ocean's 11 style had to go through and find the replacement for Lee and sneak his body out and keep him alive at all costs, which is maybe not what they do.
I will show you a page, or I'll show you a page, because I do not want to give away the ending. I also have not read the ending yet, so definitely only going to show you a little bit, but this is such a great book. I mean, Christopher Cantwell is a solid writer. The art's great. And this is a fun story. I mean, who doesn't like a good conspiracy theory, you know, and of course the JFK conspiracy theories, there's like 50 theories within that whole situation. And this was one of the more interesting ones.
Yeah,
and I kind of like this. I'd really like to see Christopher Cantwell do more stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, go find another conspiracy theory and kind of build another story around it. Because, this one's been great. I'm excited to read this. I'm kind of holding off just because I don't want it to be over.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great. I'm glad that it was such a solid story the whole way through, and that was a great ending as well. Another book that ended this week is Cloaked. This is issue 4 of 4 from Dark Horse, which means you'll be getting a hardcover soon.
I stopped reading this just because I knew there was a hardcover coming.
Yes, if you don't know, Dark Horse loves to make those beautiful hardcover variation collections at the end. The Cloaked is possibly one of my favorite Batman stories on the shelf right now. This is, though it's not technically about Batman, obviously. This is the story of a detective who is hired, like a PI, who is hired to investigate who the Sentry was. That's what it is, right? Sentry? Yes.
Yes.
And they, who is their hero. It's their Batman of their city. And he is hired by a guy whose name is Mr. West, who looks a lot like Bruce Wayne, who lives in his mansion on the edge of town with his butler, who wants him to go out and figure out who this hero, this vigilante hero was. And everywhere and every person that he investigates ends up dead.
Yes.
And so he has finally kind of figured out the answer to the mystery that he is trying to solve, and this is the issue where he puts it all together and kind of figures some stuff out. That's about all I'm going to say.
Yeah, this is kind of if Batman was actually a rich asshole. Or Bruce Wayne is actually a rich asshole who takes advantage of his soft power and becomes a vigilante for maybe not the right reasons.
Yes, and you should definitely read it because it's so good.
Is soft power the correct term? What is soft power? I heard
I
it
don't
one
know.
time. I threw it out there hoping.
It made sense. I don't know.
And then I was sitting there and I was like, wait a second. Did I say that correctly?
Maybe.
Anyway, you should get it. And if you don't get the single issues, wait for that beautiful hardcover because it's going to be nice.
And if you do want a hardcover, let me know. But if you want it in single issues, I have all 4. So, all right. So we've got our picks of the week. Comics. All right. So
there's
first
no sound anymore.
No, because we don't do that sound. That sound was for a different.
Well, that sound.
The whooshy thing.
The whoosh and then the explosion.
The monitor doesn't have a speaker, I don't think. So you don't get your ears blasted out. That was a request that you made. Yeah.
Well, now that I don't have it, I kind of miss it.
I'm gonna go deaf from all the sound effects in my ear. Well, yeah.
There you go.
We'll give you new sound effects, Phil. First up in picks of the week, I'm going to continue to bring Heathen in. I know these are reprints.
Are we allowed to count this?
Yes.
Okay.
Because
I can't argue
because
you're the
most
boss.
people haven't read it.
That is true.
So I feel like it counts. And I had never read it. So it is a pick for me. This is the story of Valkyrie. You see the number 2, and it's from Vault Comics. This is the story of a Valkyrie who pissed off the gods, and Odin sentenced her to live on top of a mountain. And she's surrounded by fire, and the only way that she can be freed from her prison is if a person comes and rescues her and she marries them, because Odin thinks that will be the worst thing that he could possibly do. And at the same time, we have a young Viking woman who is a teenage girl who has been kicked out of her colony, I don't know what they call it, village, because she kissed another girl. And so she has been kicked out of her village for, they said she could either get married to a man or she can be killed. And really she wasn't kicked out. Her father said, I'll take death over making my daughter marry somebody that she doesn't have feelings for and who she's not interested in at all. And instead of killing her, the dad actually just helps her get away. And now she has chosen to go and save the Valkyrie woman on top of the cliff. And in this issue, she is actually making her way up the mountain to find this Valkyrie woman and offer her freedom in whatever way that means. So, really great story. You also get like these wolves in this issue who are talking wolves and who talk about like eating the sun and the moon. So you get all this like kind of folklore story, like this mythological story. And you get this awesome story of these powerful women, and you get those incredible foil covers that Phil just showed you at the beginning. Heathen is a story that came out previously, back when nobody knew what Vault Comics was. And so now that people do, they are making these special Vault reprints of it that are all foiled and amazing. These are the Vault reserves, because it's like they've been in the vault, essentially. It's wonderful.
I mean, yeah, if you want to know why Vault has gotten to the point that they've gotten and where it all started, there are a lot of really awesome Vault titles early on. It's like a gallery.
Yeah, it has all this, like, making of.
And Heathen, I didn't read Heathen when it was coming out, but I read it somewhat slightly after, along with, like, Friendo, and Wasted Space, which I think you said is still going on.
It just ended, I think.
And there's some other ones as well. Alien Bounty Hunter. Like, the early Vault titles are actually really impressive for like a first line of books to be put out for an indie publisher. But I remember, like, when Vault blew up, someone was talking to me and they were like, oh, if you love Vault, you should go back and read Heathen. And I was like, I've actually read Heathen before, and it's amazing. I mean, this is arguably one of the best Vault titles that they've ever published, and it's one of their first titles. Mm-hmm. And I think it's great that they're doing this, because it does give it another chance for people to understand why Vault is so great.
Yeah, and if you haven't read it, like I said, I didn't read it the first time around, so for me, this is continuously going to probably be in my picks of the week, because I'm obsessed with every character and all of the storytelling aspects of it. This is such a good book. I love that they show you the scripts in the back. I love that they give you character cards. That you're getting bonus features. So even if you did read it the first time, you're getting new features when you read the new issues. So it's great to collect it again or for the first time. And again, these foil covers are just fantastic. I'm going to order all of it, because I love it, and I'm going to make sure we have it all in stock at all times.
And I'll say this, there are actually some early Heathen variants that are pretty pricey. Mm-hmm. And I know it is kind of hard to find the original issues of Heathen as well, because there were such low print runs. Not a lot of people were ordering them. Yeah. So this is a good chance to get it. You also get the foil cover, but also you do get that bonus stuff in the back. So I think it's great, and I hope they do this with all of those old titles.
Yeah, same. Next up, I'm going to actually go next up with this one. We actually don't have this in stock, but we just wanted to show you a pick of the week for Phil this week, and which will always be a pick of the week for Phil, I believe, when this book comes out. But this is Heavy Metal Drummer issue 2 from Behemoth Comics.
Yes. I don't want to tell you what this book is about. I'll say this. If you enjoyed the movie They Live, but if somebody saw They Live and then took a bunch of acid and then wrote their own version of They Live...
That's what this book is.
That is what this book is. There is not much heavy metal drumming in this book. Actually, in this issue, there is zero actual drumming in this book. But let me show you this art. I don't want to show too much, and there's also... Like, look, this first page right here. Look at that. I mean, again, this is fucking beautiful.
And the cover itself is wraparound.
Oh, it is a wraparound cover. I'll show the cover next for sure. This cover is super cool. This art is so great. It's really trippy. The story is
ridiculous.
Like I'm just,
but in like a good way, not like
yes, where like I'm sitting here and I'm flipping through and I'm reading this book and I'm kind of like chuckling to myself because how ridiculous this book is. And I don't think I can show anything else.
You can't show much of this issue on the internet. I can't even show that. So
yeah,
it's fine.
I can't even. Yeah. So we're out here, but please hunt this book down. You will not be disappointed. I mean, look, if you pick it up and you don't like it, I will buy it off of you and have multiple copies of this book because it's that awesome.
Yeah.
I will too.
And then I'm going to go to schools and hand them out to high schoolers and be like, read this.
Not from us, though.
Well, it won't be on official Bat City terms.
It is not for kids. It is not.
It is definitely not for
adults.
kids.
Let me just say that right now. There's
all right, I'll go to colleges.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll go to colleges and I'll drop it off, and there may be a little tab in the back of the book that you put in your mouth and you take it and then you read this book. It's going to be a magical adventure.
We're definitely not doing that.
Well, hold on now. What I do with my money on my free time. No.
Right, but you don't talk about it on my live stream.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't support drug use, kids.
There you go.
Right.
Well, that's a legal substance.
Next up is Rad Wraith from Black Caravan. Another book that I don't really actually have in stock after this week. I started with 10 copies or more, and now I'm down to this one in your hand.
Yes, another Black Caravan title, just dominating comics. I mean, Black Caravan is so badass. This is a great book, and again, it doesn't surprise me that this book flew off the shelves. It also makes me happy that the subscribers that come to this shop buy books like this, because this is the story of a little boy who is trying to impress the cool older skater kids by joining their team, and so he has to skate a half pipe in a cemetery that is buried on an evil Indian skate park, which is so
which
absurd.
They even say is offensive in the book. Like,
and then he is not dead. The little boy's not dead. And he goes to school the next day to meet his friend who looks like the character from Scumbag and also kind of looks like he's a 30-year-old in high school.
Which they call out.
Yeah, like, that's his friend right there, the dude with the long hair. He looks 30 in a fucking high school, which is so weird to me. This book is badass. Oh, and also kind of a wraparound cover.
Yeah.
Let me show this wraparound cover.
I was talking to a customer earlier, like one of the last person to get this book, and I was like, it's kind of like the old Tales from the Crypt TV show, where you're like, okay, this is supposed to be, like, this is kind of a spooky concept, but you just made this ultimately ridiculous, like, all at the same time. And it's like they know that. Like, somebody watched that show growing up and was like, how would I make a ridiculous comic out of that? Oh, I'm going to do it right here. And it feels very much like that's what they, like, this is somebody who grew up, like, watching, like, The Simpsons and, like, all the 90s stuff, and that included Tales from the Crypt, and then just became like, okay, here's how I'm gonna do this.
Well, there's this, what is that, Evil Dead 2 cover? Is this Evil Dead 1 or Evil Dead 2? This right here, where he's popping out of the ground.
Oh, Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely, like, somebody who loves horror movies, but wants to do kind of, like, their own, like, what's the company that does Toxic Avenger?
Oh.
I'm drawing a blank on the name of that company. Trauma. It's very much like somebody who loves Trauma and, like, look at this character. Look how badass this character is. If you didn't pick up this book, I'm so sorry. But you need to.
Right. And I think I put one in your box, so I think this might not be your copy. So I might have one left.
Also, this is a Black Caravan book, so somewhere at that Scout store, are going to be metal variants, are going to be foil covers. Are there some in the back?
And there is a Get Your Rad Wraith Stuff ad in the back.
There's a t-shirt.
There's a skateboard deck.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
there's a skate deck that you can get. There is all kinds of stuff that you can get for this Rad Wraith book. So if you read it and you were like, damn, this is awesome, don't forget to grab your stuff from the link. It's probably through the Scout store. But also, yes, like Phil said, there's gonna be a vinyl cover probably.
Yeah.
Or not a vinyl cover, a VHS variant. There's probably gonna be a metal variant. There's gonna be so many cool variants. If you don't keep up with like Scout Comics website, you should definitely go to their website and check it out. And also follow them on Whatnot, because I believe they do a lot of sales of their metal variants on their Whatnot. So.
But yeah, expect in one of the upcoming live streams. I don't know how long it's going to take to ship, but I will definitely be wearing a Rad Wraith t-shirt. Hopefully by issue 2.
Yeah.
I'll have my awesome Rad Wraith t-shirt. Also, did Frankenrocker come
that's
up with?
saying that's next week.
Okay. Yeah.
And hopefully, I don't know. I
am in heaven, Chad.
I'm waiting for Frankenrocker and Jailbait Punks to come out.
Let me say, Chad, earlier today, thanks to Shannon, who sent me probably one of the best text messages I could receive, 2022 has been the year of Phil.
It's true.
Like, I'm going to go talk to somehow squeezing into the Chinese calendar the year of Phil, and it'll be all of 2022, and however many years separated. Is every 6 years? 8 years? Is how I don't know. But yes, no, this has been a fantastic year. This has been wonderful.
We can talk about that announcement later. All right. Next up, from Bad Kids Press, who did the Cheap Tricks book that we talked about last week, I believe it was, is Stealing Oz #1. I don't care if Phil likes this book or not. Don't care at all. Because this book is about the Wizard of Oz, and I am sold. This could have been the worst book that came out this week, and it would still be in my picks of the week, because the person who wrote it has actually read all 14 L. Frank Baum books enough to know how to put the tiniest characters and references into this story.
So let me ask you a question before we jump into the story.
Yeah.
Is the guy who's the wheel man?
That's the Wheelers from Return to Oz, the movie, if you've ever seen it.
I've only seen the first one.
Okay. If you've ever seen if you haven't seen Return to Oz, watch it. It's Faruka Balk playing Dorothy. And it's an actual adaptation of the book, not a sequel to The Wizard of Oz with Judy Garland, because it is actually like a very dark 1980s adaptation of like Return to Oz, the book. It's terrifying. It was I watched The Wizard of Oz every day of my life as a child, and whenever I would watch Return to Oz, I would get scared. This is the story of Dorothy and her friends, the Lion and the Scarecrow, and the Wheeler, who, again, if you haven't seen or read Return to Oz, you might not know who that is, but they are bank robbers, and they run this whole thing, and they are being chased by the police, and the police can't catch them, so they call in some law enforcement from Oz, who are actually TikTok, which you may know if you've seen Return to Oz, and the Tin Man. And they have determined that there is some kind of magic use going on in how these people are robbing all these banks. But Dorothy and the Lion and the Scarecrow and Wheeler don't have magic. So who is actually responsible for this magic and what is going on is a huge thing. But if you are a fan of L. Frank Baum's Wizard of Oz, they bring up like the Patchwork Girl, they bring up Mumbai, they bring up like some of the characters that you have had to have read like book 7 or 8 in the Oz trilogy, Oz series, saga, essentially, to know who any of these characters are. And so I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. It's kind of cute. It's okay. Like, you know, when I was first reading it. And then I got to the Tin Man TikTok talking, and they start talking about all these characters from Oz that they could be. And I was like, wait a second. Does this person know Oz? Like, is this person a huge Wizard of Oz fan? And so I read the whole book. I was like, oh my God. And actually, I was talking to our volunteer, Charles, at the time, and he was like, what are you talking about? I've never heard of those characters. Where are they from? So I went out and I got my box set that Matt got me for Christmas that has all 15 Wizard of Oz books, because one of them was not written by L. Frank Baum.
There's 15.
There are 15 Wizard of Oz books. And I got my series out, and I literally had like 3 customers in the store, and I was like explaining it to Charles. I was like, all right, so this is the one you know from the Wizard of Oz movie. Now this one is about this, and like all the customers started standing around the desk just like listening to me tell them what all the Wizard of Oz books were, and everybody's like, I had no idea there were this many books. This writer of this book is a huge Wizard of Oz fan. He said that he has an obsession with all of the books and has always wanted to do something with the rest of the world. And this is kind of how that came out of. It's very... a lot of it kind of reminds me of the sci-fi show that they did, the Tin Man show that had Zooey Deschanel in it, which was like the worst part of the show for Matt, I know, for sure. But also, like, she wasn't like the best Dorothy.
She is terrible.
She is a terrible.
In terms of acting, she is terrible.
She's not a great actress, and but she played Dorothy, and it was very much like brought a lot of the elements from the actual books into it, though. It was a really good show for that purpose. This kind of has that feeling because the Tin Man is like the whole idea that the Tin Man is a law enforcement kind of situation. You kind of feel a little bit of that in it. And there is a little twist at the end of like, ooh, we have to solve this problem. Mm-hmm. And he said he is going to bring in other characters from other, like, not just the Oz world. Because they did reference the fact that, like, oh, well, maybe if it is a problem with magic, like, maybe it's a Narnia like, it's somebody from Narnia, or Wonderland. And so there is the idea that we might get, like, some Wonderland characters and some Narnian characters. And so I'm sold, because I love when books, like, people take those open domain books and turn them into, like, cool, like, modern stories. And, also, I don't care. If you make something with the Wizard of Oz, I'm going to read it, and I'm going to love it. And it is fun. The book is fun either way, because you get, like, the cheesy, like, bank robber book. And, like, the same of all the other ones we kind of talk about, where it's like, ooh, they're bank robbers, but then, like, what's the twist? And, like, you've got your detective story going on at the same time. So you get all that. It's a lot of fun. It's super Ozian, and if you are a fan of the Wizard of Oz at all, you absolutely need this in your box.
But you don't need to be.
But you don't need to be. If you don't, you can still read the book. It's still, like, classic fairy tale, like, characters. Like, if you like Fable and stuff like that, where they just take classic fairy tale characters and they put them into another story, this is one of those. And they're modern. They're in Hollywood. They're Robin Banks. You don't have to know anything about it, but it's kind of like if you read, like, the Betty, Veronica, Harley, and Ivy, and it's, like, it's super funny because you know all the Archie references and all the DC book, like, references, like, it makes it funnier. This is one of those where if you know all of those, it makes the story even better, but if you don't know them, you can still read it and enjoy it.
All right.
So.
And my opinion doesn't matter, so.
No. Doesn't matter. If he does like it, that's cool, too.
We'll never know.
Yeah, you'll never know.
I'll never know how I felt about it. Because it doesn't matter, clearly.
It doesn't. Because I don't care if anybody likes it, except for me. I literally, this week, we have a customer who just recently told me, like, The Wizard of Oz is his favorite movie of all time, and he's, like, obsessed with it. And so this week, I was like, this is your book. Like, you have to read this book, because I need somebody else who's, like, obsessed with The Wizard of Oz to care. It's like, and if you're not obsessed with The Wizard of Oz, you should still read it, because it's fun. Lastly, on the complete opposite end of that spectrum, is, we loved King Jira here by Marco Fontanelli. Yes. And he is back with another book from Black Caravan that is on the opposite end of that spectrum called Pentagram of Horror. This is issue 1 of 5. It is a mini-series. This book is terrifyingly wonderful. Go ahead, Phil.
This book is amazing. We've all seen the story, Selling Your Soul to the Devil. It's done many of times, and this man decides to sell his soul to the devil for to be a better artist, and he finds out that that's not really what he should have sold his soul for. But then you find out that he's been doing this for quite some time.
Yes,
this has been happening forever, and it turns out that he has been in this constant cycle of his hell is basically reliving that day over and over again. And that's his own hell. And the art in this book is so fucking cool.
Yes.
There's so many pages I cannot wait to show you. Like, I'll just go ahead and skip to this one because that is so awesome. I don't have a clue what they're gonna do for 5 issues.
Right, you didn't really need any more. This
No,
could have been a one-shot and it would have been great.
Yeah, this could have been a one-shot and you're like, yes, fuck yes, everything about this book. I want to go out tomorrow and get a pentagram tattoo. Yeah, because like then you get that and then you get this like darkness. I mean, it's crazy that this is the guy who did King Jira.
Yeah,
like
it's so different.
Also, in the same line of Joseph Smolke, Black Caravan, sign this guy and don't let him create a book for anything else besides this. Let me go to like, oh my god, it's so cool, and the conversation between him and the devil is awesome, and the fact because like you're sitting there and you're like, all right, we've seen this, we know what's going to happen. Like he's got a year to live, and then all of a sudden, you know, the veil's ripped apart and you're like, oh no, this guy's been living this hell forever. Let me go to the part, where's the craziness? Oh my gosh, like this is just the beginning of it. This leads up to a really badass 2-page spread that I'm very excited to get to.
Right, are you gonna show him or are you gonna make him buy the book to see the 2-page spread?
No, I'm gonna show them. I'm gonna show them because if you're not buying this book based on this art alone, then look at that. Also, I just saw Cannibal Corpse, which fits so perfectly. Like, play Cannibal Corpse's music while reading this issue, and
yeah, it was an absolutely
so
it's a terrifyingly like good like book, like I said, because it's you do feel like it's gonna be that classic same like, oh, this is the story that you've seen a million times, like you said, like it immediately rips out like that story and is like, no, we're past that, we've already done that. So where does that go from there? That part that you never see after the movie ends or the story ends, where it's like, oh, now they're being like dragged to hell. Like you never see what happens. You're like, oh, well, see, there's the moral of the story is like, don't sell your soul. It's like, okay, I got it, and then you like leave and you walk away. And here it's like, no, but you didn't get it.
Yeah.
Like, let's like drive that message in over and over and over again for the rest of forever.
And I feel like this is an issue that right off the bat is just like, hey, your main character is not getting out of this.
Yeah.
Like there's no coming back from the mistake that this guy made, and I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. I'm perfectly okay with that because it looks like it's gonna be 5 issues of this guy being tortured,
or maybe we'll see other people getting tortured. Who knows? It doesn't necessarily have to be that it's the same guy. We could see this could end up being almost anthology-esque. 5 issues of like people who also made the same decision in the same way like Silver Coin is kind of like people who pick up the coin and make the bad decision. Who knows? I don't know.
Down for that.
Yeah.
Also, if you want to talk about metal covers from Black Caravan, like Rad Wraith is going to be cool, but these covers are going to be awesome. Yes.
Scout is doing incredible things on their own, but their imprints are killing it right now. Black Caravan, Scoot, all of them. This is like Black Caravan is the opposite end of the spectrum. Scoot's your kid one. Black Caravan is your mature one. I do like that they are actually printing that on it now. Yes, like, hey, this is for
18 plus.
18 up.
They did that with Cherry Blackbird too, where it's like this is very much a mature title.
Even at their store, they have the ones like these in a separate section that's like, hey, this is the mature section. Like it's absolutely like, you know, everybody doesn't need to pick it up, and it's on like the opposite end of their store, kind of like ours is. Like it's the opposite end of the store from where the kids stuff is. But it's a great. This is, if you like horror, you need this. You need to read this book. It's freaking crazy. Also, and if you like great art,
Also come in and check out Why This Beat Out Slumber for my book of the week. Like if you couldn't tell based on the 2-page spreads in this book, like come pick it up because it's a really, really cool book.
It's a really cool book.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why we saved it for the end.
There were like 4 or 5 people this week. Like I ordered when I got my books in this week. I had stacks of Playthings and of the Pentagram of Horror and Rad Wraith, and they all like they were these like massive stacks and a Heavy Metal Drummer, and I was like, why did I do this? And then I was like, okay, well, who's going to want this? And I just started like pulling them for all the people I think are going to want it. And it's funny because every single one of those people this week came in and they were like, hey, did you get? And I was like, here are your books. And they're like, this one. Did you get this one? You already knew that I wanted this one. I was like, oh man, no, it was crazy and weird and like it's dark. And if you didn't know, Scout also has a Black Caravan book coming out called Vanity. That's about Elizabeth Bathory, and it's her whole story, and it starts at, like, her death and then goes back to, like, how she became the serial killer and stuff that she is, and that's another one that metal covers would look gorgeous of that book as it's coming out. That's coming very soon. I think it might be next week, might be the week after. I think it says in the back of that book, actually, when it comes out.
I know they have a ton of t-shirts for Scout. Do they have a Black Caravan shirt? Like, just Black
Matt has it. He wears it all the time. Yeah. It's like a black shirt, and it says Black Caravan in the blue.
With
like,
the
logo.
With the logo?
Yeah. That's all it is. It's super sweet.
I need to get... I hope they put out t-shirts for this.
Available now.
Vanity? It's not available now. Because it got delayed, so they think it is next week. I don't know. I'm very excited. I'm going to pass that to you so you can pass it to Matt. I can't wait for Vanity. That's the book that I've been, like, super excited for. And I think it comes out next week. I think that's what customers and I looked up this week.
Black Caravan.
Black Caravan, man. Get
your bee's knees.
Get your Black Caravan books.
Yes. And your merch.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to get some of that merch.
Yeah. They do have a lot of it on the Scout website. And then you can also, just fly to Florida and go to Fort Myers and check it out in their store. All right, so we've got a bunch of books in stock this week, so we're going to fly through these pretty quickly. Speaking of Scout, Season 2, Issue 3 of Northwind is in. This is one of those, like, classic Scout kind of, like, murder mystery kind of things. We've got Homesick Pilots Issue 13, which ends this summer in June on Issue 15. So, Homesick Pilots about to come to an end.
However,
might not be the end.
Casper Wingard said this may not be the end of the universe.
But it is the end of this particular run. The Silver Coin, Issue 10. This is one of the issues that's just done completely by Michael Walsh on writing and art. Bylines in Blood, Issue 3. This is a great Aftershock story about a girl who was a reporter and turned into a detective, and now her mentor is passed. Hyper Thick, if you are a fan of all those classic, you want to open that up and show them like Silver Age kind of storytelling, Golden Age kind of storytelling, you need to be reading Hyper Thick to get some of those really cool stories.
And the cool thing about this is that this is actually public domain art that he literally just took and reprinted with his own word bubbles over it. And it's wild. The dialogue in that book is next level.
Catwoman, Issue 41. This is that beautiful Jenny Frison cover that has the beautiful Zoe Kravitz from the Batman on the cover. A King's Vengeance, Issue 2, another Scout title. This is almost completely wordless story, but it is all about a knight who has been selected to do the evil biddings of people. Blue and Gold, Issue 7 of 8. So the Booster Gold and Blue Beetle story is wrapping up soon. Avengers, Issue 54. We are leading up to that X-Men versus Avengers versus Eternals, and it's starting here. Speaking of Eternals, The Heretic, Issue 1. This is a one-shot within the Eternals world. Speaking of events, Reckoning War, Child of the Watcher, Issue 1 is out. Flash. This is part 3 of the War for Earth 3, but it's Flash number 780. Justice League 74. This is leading up to the death of the Justice League, which I just ordered today. So if you're going to want that, you need to tell me immediately because I already know exactly how many I have coming. No Holds to Barred. This is an Adam West style Batman-y type book, but it stars William Shakespeare and his page, and it's told in Shakespearean dialect.
Adam West would be such a good William Swally. He would be a great William Shakespeare.
Nightwing, Issue 90 of Tom Taylor's Nightwing run. The Scorched. I had to bring this homage issue because it's the last one I have left if you need that homage cover of The Scorched Issue 3. The Amazing Spider-Man 92 Point Bay. That is 92 Beyond. I know. It's just more fun to say it that way than it is to say Beyond. They chose it. That's on them. X Lives of Wolverine 5.
I'm bummed that there's no Beyonce in it.
Nope, there's not. Stillwater. This is a one-shot. Stillwater the Escape. It is leading us to the end of the final arc of Stillwater. So if you are behind on Stillwater, now's the time to catch up. Time Before Time, issue 11. This is if we corporatize time travel and ruined everything. Batman the Knight from Chip Siddarski. This is issue 3. This is not Chip Zdarsky's Batman run. This is a side story by Chip Zdarsky.
It's kind of
about
it's a Bruce Wayne origin story, so I feel like it's kind of like his introduction to really taking on Batman.
Batman Superman World's Finest issue 1. Refrigerator Full of Heads issue 5 from the Hill House comic imprint of DC Comics. Robin's number 5. We've got DC Presents Soul Plumber, issue 6 of 6. So Soul Plumber, which was done by the last podcast on the left people, has come to an end.
Awesome people.
Titans United, issue 7. This is the International Women's Day variant cover for that. Then we've got Wonder Woman Evolution number 5 from Stephanie Phillips. Who did that variant?
Cully Hamner.
Nice.
Not part of the Trial of the Amazons.
Not part of the Trial of the Amazons. This is a different Wonder Woman story entirely. The Sword of Hyperborea, number 3, part of the Hellboy universe. Usagi Yojimbo, issue 27. The Walking Dead Deluxe. These are the color reprints of The Walking Dead, issue 35. There's a new one every week. Basilisk, issue 8. And then we got Star Wars Halcyon Legacy, issue 2. We've got the Marvels, issue 9. And we had the release of the brand new Carnage series this week. This is Carnage number 1. Yes.
Who's writing this, you know?
I forgot because you asked me. You could definitely open it and see if you would like to. Let's figure it out. That's a good question. Because I don't remember. And I feel bad. And while you're doing that, Ram, I got you. I always put your Catwoman side for you, buddy. Boop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop. It's going to be one of those where it's like hard to figure out like where the writer is.
Sometimes they put it at the back now.
Yeah, they do that a lot at Marvel, actually. It would be... Nope. That's the end, and it's not on there. So it's going to be that, like, 4th page. Well, that's the title page, but it doesn't have a writer on there. If you know who... if you know who is writing Carnage before we get there, we would appreciate it if you just told us, because I forgot. And still can't find it. That's crazy that you can go that far. And there it is. Oh my god.
Ramsey! Holy shit.
Well, where was Chad on that?
Oh my god. We got like halfway through the book. Look. More than halfway through this book before I get the title card. Why? Why, Marvel?
And on that note, yes, Chad, I will give you a copy of Carnage. Yeah, we will definitely get that for you. All right, and now we've got some trays. That was a sound effect, all right. So we often get some novels and we don't talk about them, so I wanted to bring this one out. We've got the Marvel Heroines Black Cat Discord. This is a YA novel about Black Cat, which we need to have more of. We also got 2 new Peanuts books in stock. Go Fly Kite, Charlie Brown, and You're Out of Your Mind, Charlie Brown.
These are fun books, too.
Yeah.
I like when they compile these older... Because this is a lot of the older, like, 50s, which I think are fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, here we go. It is the second Peanut Sunday strip from 1957 to 1959.
And the other one is 1959 and 1960.
Yeah, $7 for these fun little books. Get some good old school Charlie Brown.
Yeah. We got the second volume of Wind in trade paperback form. So if you've been waiting on volume 2 of Wind, or if you've been looking to gift volume 2 of Wind to somebody, which a lot of people have told me, we've got some copies of the hardcover and the trade paperback and stuff. Since it's vampire season, apparently, we've got the first time in print version of The All-Nighter by Chip Siddarski, which is his book about vampires that was a Comixology exclusive and has now been put in print form.
That's
Dark
cool.
Horse. Yeah. We're going to say this.
It's not a hardcover.
And it's not a hardcover. Radiant Black Volume 2 is finally out. So if you've been waiting for that, I know Kyle Higgins is no, they did not announce that. Just kidding. I was gonna say he's supposed to be at Fan Expo, but he's been there in the past.
Oh,
so
okay.
he's not necessarily going to be
Be
there.
a great pool though. With
yeah.
Kind of how this universe is blown up.
Yeah, that would be great. AWA Upshot's is out. This is the entirety of that run, and it is $9.99, as all AWA Upshot books are.
Nazi vampires?
It is about no, not really, but kind of
Monsters.
We've got Adora and the Distance. This is all about a young girl who is following her imagination and going to fantastical worlds to fight pirates or interact with pirates and ghosts and all kinds of things. This is really cute.
Holy shit, Mark Bernard.
Mm-hmm.
Like
also
him.
from Dark Horse.
I like that guy.
Volume 2 of Amana Mungie is out. If you've ever wanted to know about all the female pirates in the world, we've got this story that features Anne Bonny and a bunch of the other female pirates. It's done by Stephanie Phillips, who lives in Tampa Bay, so she felt like she needed to write a story about pirates.
Understandable.
Yeah, Sweet Paprika from Mirka and Dotho. This is all about a young demon girl who is in charge, the female executive at a publishing company who nobody takes seriously because she's a female, and even though she has all of that power, she can't help it. And classic rom-com kind of story, she's trying to win over the big executive dude that she loves, but she's never been good at intimacy, so she gets an angel that's the delivery boy who's kind of dumb to try to help her figure out intimacy and relationships. Batman White Knight presents Harley Quinn. I've had so many people talking to me about this book this week, so I thought I'd bring it out and remind you that we do have it just in time for Batman Beyond. From this in the same universe. We are going to have The Curse of the Batman Beyond coming out your way in this same universe. Coming soon, I believe, next week or so.
Yes. Also, should I save that for...
Save for the news.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we've got a couple hardcovers. We've got this Monstrous Omnibus. This is volume 1 of Monstrous.
Foil.
And it is gorgeous. And then we've got...
Also, if you haven't read Monstrous, read that book.
Descender.
Marjorie Liu.
Also, I believe it's not the whole thing, right? It's just volume 1 of that as well. Might be the whole thing.
I think it's not all of it.
Okay.
Tell Chad, I think we have a 50 off White Knight trade.
Okay.
If he's interested.
Of the Harley one?
No, the regular.
Oh, okay, the regular. And he needs the Harley one? Cool.
Because there was also Ascender,
Yes.
which came after. But Image has been also doing a lot of really wonderful hardcovers. There was a third one in this stack, but I took it.
Yes. I'm very proud of you for taking that one.
Yes. Well, I love that series. It's called Little Bird.
It was one of the very first Devil's Advocates book club reads.
Really?
Little Bird. Megan, because on the Devil's Advocates, which is Megan Hutchison Cates and Donnie Cates, their book club, Donnie picks a big 2 book and Megan picks an indie book, and she makes Donnie read the indie book and Donnie makes her read the big 2 book, and then they talk about them, and that was one of the very first ones. Then lastly, we have another trade out this week that absolutely is definitely never been mentioned in this store at all. But Bunny Mask from Aftershock Volume 1 is out. Suddenly we have sound effects again.
Only from Matt's favorite books.
Yes. Here we are with Paul Tobin and Andrew Moody's fantastic story of Bunny Mask, which is basically what would happen if you became best friends with the girl from The Ring. It's great. I love this book. The more you read, the less you understand, and it gets better every time.
That's why I love it.
Yes. So those are our trades in stock. We've got tons more. If you've never been in, you might not know, we have a massive 50% off trade section, which is full of incredible, wonderful books that you just absolutely need to get. And we've got a 50% off section. We've got a few regular price sections of trades. Come in, grab one, take a seat, look through it, see if it's the book for you. And 10% off trades all the time that are the regular price trades. And then, like I said, there's a half off section as well. Other than that, we've got some news. News. Yeah, Phil's gonna be sound effects person now. So, first things first, we mentioned this at the very beginning of the show, but just in case you missed that, every year on Facebook, we do a battle of the best book of the previous year. So what was the best book of 2021? We are trying to determine what your favorite is. We go off of what was most popular in our store. We put them all against each other in a March Madness style battle, and we work our way down until we get to it. We have just completed round 1. Round 2 began today with Eve versus Human Target. And that's Boom Studios Eve, which I was going to actually bring that trade. And I forgot. And Human Target, which has, of course, been just flying off the shelves recently. But Eve has already done 2 battles in this thing, because Eve was the first book to have a tie in our round 1, and then went to a second battle against Good Asian, which is what it was battling against, and moved on to this round. So don't count out young Eve. She has made it through an apocalyptic setting, and she is still battling. So who knows? She might actually take out Human Target. We'll see.
I mean, it's kind of tough to top Tom King.
It really is.
But you never know. You never know. I mean, if you watch sports ball, Shannon calls it, the March Madness tournament itself has been very crazy. So we may see some upsets in our March Madness tournament.
You never know. You know, you're an Atlanta Braves fan, and they won the World Series, so anything could happen once you get to the series.
There you go.
So we are continuing to do that. It'll go through the rest of March, and you get to determine what your favorite book of the year was by voting, which means commenting on the battle each day. Whichever one is up, you comment on it, you pick your book. You are welcome to argue for your book, as long as you keep it friendly and exciting. But we love to hear why people love the books, and it does actually help other people pick up the books for the first time. So tell people why you love it, and we'll see what your favorite book was. Last year came down to Wind versus Department of Truth. We'll see what happens this year. It could be anything. Other than that, there was an announcement that you shared on your Facebook page this week that a certain actor, a Mr. Paul Dano,
yes,
will be writing a Riddler book for DC this fall.
It's going to be Riddler Year 1, and it's 4 issues. I think that's a great, fantastic choice. I know Paul Dano may not be the most well-known actor, but I think he's very talented.
Absolutely.
I've heard that he also is a really great writer as well. And it makes sense for a guy who played the role of the Riddler to kind of take this on. So I think you'll probably get more of his character in the Batman versus your classic Riddler. Which I'm excited about. I kind of like when you kind of bring the movie universe over into the comics a little bit. And the Riddler is one of those characters that doesn't always get the best attention. I mean, even he has said it in comics and movies. Like, I should be considered one of Batman's greatest villains, but I've always been considered a C-list character.
Yeah.
And so I kind of like that he's getting this attention, both in the movie and in the comics. So I'm looking forward to that. Again, we talk about celebrities writing books, so this is...
I don't know. I'm really excited because Paul Dano is a writer, and I do also like it when they play their character, or the person who plays the character does it. Like there was the Danny DeVito story where he wrote a Penguin story that fit into that universe of the Batman Returns universe, and so I'm curious to see where this goes. And I definitely can't wait to see what Paul Dano comes up with because he is such a great writer.
Yeah.
The other thing is that we were talking about Fan Expo Dallas, and you've got some news about that, huh?
Yes. So as a Kevin Smith fan, I couldn't have been more stoked when I found out that he was doing his own line at Dark Horse, which was going to bring his View Askew universe into comics. But Shannon messaged me this morning. It was the first thing I saw when I woke up. I turned my alarm off, and I saw a message from Shannon, and I immediately went to that first before anything else.
I'm very happy to know that my text messages come before everything else.
And it said, hey, the cast of Clerks is going to be at Dallas Fan Expo this year. And so I clicked on the link that she sent me, and I was like, holy shit. Like, I am so thrilled. He's been talking about Clerks 3 for a couple years now. He said one of the toughest things that he had to do to make Clerks 3 happen was to get Jeff Anderson back, who plays the role of Randall. And he convinced him, and so it was awesome to scroll through that, and down at the bottom there's Jeff Anderson's name. So I am thrilled. I will be going to Dallas Fan Expo this year, so if anyone wants to tag along, I will be there Saturday. I'm only going the one day because I am a very poor person already, but if there's anything I'm going to spend my money on, it is all things Kevin Smith. So I'm excited. And there's actually, like, Elijah Wood's going to be there. The cast of Lord of the Rings is going to be there. Peyton List is going to be there. And there's somebody else. There's the big one is Brendan Fraser, which I think is so cool. So yeah, they haven't even announced the comic book creators, but celebrity list alone, I'm already in. So.
And they usually get some of the big comic creators and do some great stuff. So I'm excited to see, who they're going to bring in comic creator wise this year, because there's going to be some good stuff.
The last time I went was 2019, right before the pandemic, and I got to meet Jim Lee and John Byrne in the same day.
We
which
were there.
Was crazy to me.
That's crazy. We were there too.
Yeah. Turns out a lot of people were there.
Yeah,
that I know
everybody
now,
was there.
So.
I think everybody was there that year. But yeah, we had that was a fun year for that one, and I think Matt had so many people sign so many books that year. He was just all over the place, with signings. It was great. And
also, probably the last time you could walk up to James Tynion's table and talk to him for 45 minutes uninterrupted, without any issues. And I don't think that's going to be the case ever again.
Which, speaking of, they did announce that Tynion and Deladera and Martin Simmons will all be doing signings, a CGC signing together. And that is due April 15th to CGC, which means it's due to Matt by the week before, at the latest, if you don't want cleaning and pressing.
When's it due?
I thought you said April 15th. You tell me. That's a you question. I thought you said April 15th on your calendar.
That's Claremont's due the 18th.
Right. I thought you said Tynion was also due that week. Double check that. While he's double checking that, they also just announced Ram V would be doing a CGC signing in-house. So if you are a Ram V fan, if you've got those Venom incentives, if you've got some Swamp Thing stuff, anything like that, you definitely are going to want to get those in soon.
I have a copy, but if I'm going to send any book in, it's going to be that
Layla
Starr foil cover.
Yes.
That would be great.
Yeah. So they just announced that one. I believe the Miranda brothers who do We Live are going to be doing a CGC in-house signing. So if you need your We Live signed, and then it is April 15th?
Friday the 15th.
Okay, yeah. I remember you were making a calendar the other day.
Folks, I'm quitting this live stream to go work at CGC so I can meet all these people. I'll just stand at the door and be like, hello, Mr. Tiny, and hello, Mr. V. Hello, Miranda Brothers.
I know the guy that works at I've met the guy that works at the CGC door. He's very nice. You could get along. He's super wonderful.
I'll be a sidekick.
His name's Travis.
And he's super
Shout
nice.
out to Travis.
Yeah,
if you need a Robin, let me know, because I will
Travis
sidekick
and
all
Robin.
day.
Here we are.
Yes.
Chad is freaking out in the comments. Chad, definitely message Matt about your super rare Layla Star that you got that you need to get signed by Rampy. Because you're definitely gonna need that. And yeah, there's so many incredible signings coming up. Again, if you didn't hear, the George Perez one was canceled because George is not doing well, and he's gone. He is home, I believe, from his hospice. But they did replace that with a Jim Starlin and a Marv Wolfman signing, and I believe all of you have communicated with Matt about your books, but they will be. There is a lot of great and wonderful signings. You can also still submit to Marv Wolfman and Jim Starlin if you didn't have a George Perez book. They are still open for other people to submit. So if you have Jim Starlin or Marv Wolfman books that you want to submit, get
like
those.
Tomb of Dracula.
Yeah, like Tomb of Dracula.
That's a good one.
Or the first appearance of Black Cat, which was on the Hot 10 list this week. So heating up again. So,
or Spider-Woman.
Or Spider-Woman. Any of those things. You want to start sending them in, now's the time. And, get them in. Get them in. Other than that, it's important notes to remember that Matt is close to cleaning and pressing that's not for all those signings because that signing list keeps getting bigger. I think somebody posted that they did the math and there's like 52 CGC signings already announced or something like that.
They opened another department.
Yes, there is a separate department just for
the
in-house signings. Because they figured out during COVID that that's a great way to do it.
And you're making a ton of money.
Yeah, so they have a whole department. So that is not the reason your books are delayed in any capacity. It's probably more because you submit 100. Yeah, there's a lot. And I'm excited about it. You have more news?
I do. So speaking of signings, there is a signing here in town. So if you're local here in Austin, April 2nd, from 2:30 to 4, it's a Saturday at Austin Books and Comics. You'll have a chance to meet Sean Gordon Murphy, who did Curse of the White Knight. That is his Batman series. He also did Punk Rock Jesus. Super talented artist. If you're a Batman fan and you haven't read Curse of the White Knight, I highly recommend it. It's a really great non-canonical Batman story. Yes. It's also, as Sean said, a love letter to the Batmobile.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, I mean, you read that first series and you're like, there are a lot of Batmobiles in this, why? And then he did an interview and was like, I always wanted to draw the Batmobile and all of the Batmobiles. 2:30 to 4. If you want, I know Chad and I will be carpooling from here at Bat City. We're going to meet up to go over there. So if you want to join us, and I know even though people don't like them as much, CBCS will be there as well.
Yes, it will be.
I know it's not CGC, but they will be there, so you can get your book signed and then passed off to CBCS, and they will send that off to get it graded and verified for you.
And support Awesome Books and Comics. Go over there, go to the signing, get your book signed, and support ABC in the process. And more than likely, if there's a signing, you're going to be interacting with Lisa. So be nice to her, because I love her.
Austin Books, they're usually really good with their signing setup. They usually handle it really well. Moves along quickly, but you also have a chance to talk to the artist.
Yeah.
I've been to a few signings there. They're really great. Also, Chad, I think you asked, we could take my car. Most definitely.
Absolutely go do that. And when creators come to Austin, go show them your support, show them your love, and support the local comic book stores. Not just Bad City, all of them, because we're a family and we love them. And shout out to each and every one of them, because they all provide something to our community that we love.
It is because the Batman Beyond book is coming out.
Yes.
I remember now. That is why they're doing it.
Yes. And Chad says don't bring stacks of things for them to sign.
No, I mean, I went to the Dennis Hopeless. I'm a big Dennis Hopeless fan. He's done a lot of series. He did the Legion of Monsters, Avengers Arena. I went with 3 books.
Yeah, that's a normal amount.
I think
that's fair.
Yeah, and even he was like, "Why you have so many?" And I was like, "You just happen to write all this stuff that I really love." But yeah, I mean, grab a couple. I know there's some first appearances in that Curse of the White Knight. But yeah, just a few, or a trade, something, real simple. But I hear he's a really nice dude, so I'm excited for this one.
Yeah. We've got a lot of new books out this week because we're back on track. So, Human Target issue 6, Lethal Protector, Venom Lethal Protector is coming back, and issue 1 is out this week. Aquaman, Green Arrow, Deep Target, Bolero #3, Frankenrocker and the Jailbait Punks, Godzilla versus the Power Rangers.
Yes.
Saga issue 57, Department of Truth is back. Child of the Amazons, Wonder Girl, Elektra, Black, White, and Blood, Ghost Cage #1. Hotel Volume 2, Issue 4, The Fourth Man, Issue 3, Beyond the Beyond is already out, just for the record. Black Hammer Reborn. We also have Demons #1, which is a Dark Horse title from Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo coming out this week.
Whoa.
Very excited. We have Demons. It looks amazing. I got to hear Scott talk about it. He answered all of our questions. It's going to be wonderful.
I mean, Greg Capullo doing anything demonic
It's going to be good.
is awesome. I mean, he's done Spawn. He did the metal and death metal
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So,
And this is their first time doing an indie book together, completely, is what they said. What Scott said, because they've done all the metal stuff together, but they haven't done a full story together indie wise. This is their first indie book together. It is also Wolverine patches out this week. Cover of Darkness is back this week. Super excited. And My Bad. And Speed Republic issue 2 is finally out, as well as Until My Knuckles Bleed. So we've got some good Behemoth titles coming your way as well this week. I'm excited. There's going to be a ton of great comics, which just only means that next week's live stream will actually be 3 hours long. Not my fault. I don't make the books. I just read them and get excited about them.
I will try and speed it up.
No, you won't.
No, I won't.
No, you won't at all.
No.
But that is all that we have for you today. We thank you so much for coming in this week. It was awesome to have you at the shop. It was a busy week. It was spring break. Hope you, if you went, had an enjoyable South by Southwest. Thanks for coming and visiting Austin and visiting our shop while you were here, for all of the out-of-towners who stopped by this week.
Dakota Johnson was here.
Oh, man. And you didn't get some
I didn't find out until afterwards.
Oh, man.
I was pretty crushed to find that out.
If you didn't make it in the store this week, when you stop by next week, make sure you check out our backroom backstock boxes. All kinds of crazy, awesome
Good
things
stuff
that we've
in
been
there.
pulling out of the back room. We also have a ton more new Silver Age comics that made it to the floor this week, and more to come. So make sure you dive those bins when you come. Until that time, we'll see you on Wednesday, or we'll see you here next Sunday. Bye.